Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchy Steve. Today I'm joined by this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted, how are you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
Good man, good. We're running a little behind. Sorry about that, folks. So the power flashed in my house a couple times, and I forgot that I was going to have to turn on my computer, and it takes the mice in the wheel a long time to get up speed, to keep things going.
Yeah, that can always be a tricky thing. I kind of had to do the same thing, not because there was a power outage due to the tornado that touched down in Jersey today, last night, but we actually had the power company come out and have to replace our meter the other day. And like I get a call down from upstairs. Yeah, they're doing this. Do you have anything that needs to be turned off? I'm like, dear God, let me turn my computer off first.
Yeah,
Uh, Last thing I want is for that thing to surge, but then getting it back up and running was like, oh, geez.
yeah. I think that's what happens when you never shut off your computer. Uh,
Uh huh.
it's like pure hell when you do and turn it back on. And also,
But so,
it's worse when it's not like a planned thing. You don't turn it off, but it gets shut off. So,
right.
but anyway, we're not here to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about some D&D ideas, legendary magic items.
Indeed. And, we got I wouldn't quite call it a plethora, but we got, a small handful of awesome things. You know, through, D&D Beyond, you could just go and, click on the cool items that are here. So
They,
I look at this.
I was just going to say before we get
Okay.
into it, they do seem to be putting a lot more free stuff over there.
Mm-hmm.
Like mini products. I mean, when it was owned by Curse and then Fandom, they did that a little bit, but not nearly. But not nearly as much as as they seem to be doing now. But also before, like they had to jump through extra hoops and Wizards
Right.
of the Coast, can we do this? And the one time they did try and do something that was super cool, Wizards of the Coast shut them down when they did that crossover with League of Legends,
Mm,
which kind of sucked because it was a pretty cool crossover.
I would agree. But we have things that are from the movie. So if you're someone who is usually like myself, where it's like, no, no, I haven't watched the movie yet. Don't give me any kind of spoilers. I hate to say we're going to talk about items that exist in the movie. So there could be elements of uh things that are given away. So spoilers, warning, if that's something that you're concerned about, stop this, go watch the movie, and come on back and check out, us talking about the items that actually appeared in the movie.
I'm trying to think about like what items. So we definitely saw the Horn of Beckoning Death in the trailers, or that one
Mm-hmm.
you get seen. The helm, it was a disjunction.
Disjunction.
We've
Disjunction.
we've definitely seen that one.
And
Um,
you see the elements of the hither staff
Without any
used, but
context.
but there's no context to it. So it's like, all right, well, what is this? Um,
Yeah,
so I mean, that's two and a half. So half of what's there that you're really seeing as a thing in just the trailer.
yeah. So, um, last warning that we're going to talk about them and spoilers. What do we got, Ted?
So there's five items. There's the helm of disjunction, the hither of their staff, the horn of beckoning death, the red wizard blade, and the tablet of reawakening. And like when I looked at some of these things, like you got to if we're going to talk about items, we're going to talk about the things that appeared in the movie and the way these things were just talked about, or in some cases not talked about, it seemed to flow as this was normal conversation, which harkens to DMs as NPCs talking in the game, or players talking to our player characters talking to other characters. So it really felt that it fit the setting. It was really making this seem like they were already there. So like the Helm of Disjunction was was a big item for, like, was a fetch quest at one aspect of the movie, and it flowed off the tongue almost to the point where I'm like, is this already a thing? And I couldn't find anything about it until this thing dropped. But I as a veteran player of the game felt that this was already a magic item that existed.
There were spells that do similar things in previous editions.
Sure.
So I think we can talk about the helm without really worrying about spoilers so much, because
Okay.
like you said, it's a fetch quest item. They need the helm to overcome something powerful in the movie. This is the only way that they're going to be able to do it. But some of the other cool things is it leads to a lot of character development for the individual that has to use the helm, and then also the quest to get the helm itself is actually kind of cool as well. And there's also a bunch of comedic moments involved in that.
Yeah, I everything about this helmet, uh, it harkens to the aspects of gaming that we love. It ties into the character development, as you brought up, the comedic elements of hanging out with friends, as well as the camaraderie, both at the table and away from it, or sorry, at the table and in game. To me, it invoked all of those elements. So, like, I dug what was there, and then the different aspects of where it led them was just it was glorious.
So the cool things that it does is it can just shut down and destroy potions and scrolls that are in a 300-foot uh, radius. It also suppresses other magical properties for 1 minute, except for artifacts. And it also doesn't
Unless they're
affect.
on, yeah,
Well,
unless it's on someone person, and then they somehow retain those things.
that's not actually what it says. I could use some clarification here. It says artifacts are unaffected by this property, as are magic items on your person.
Oh, on your person. Okay, all right. So I
So,
guess it would.
which makes it really cooler because it like screws everyone else's magic items, but yours are fine. Is
Okay,
my
all
reading.
right. That I after having read through thoroughly, I would agree. Potions and scroll in the area are destroyed. All other magic items in the area have their magical properties suppressed for 1 minute. Artifacts are unaffected by the property, as are magic items on your person. Yeah. So I would say, since the typical vernacular, the writing style of how fifth edition magic items are written, anytime that they're talking about they're talking about the person who is attuned to that item. So yes.
Also,
Uh,
it's going to dispel any ongoing spells. They end. If and I believe it's like if any of the spell is in the area of effect, right? So even if it's just the very edge of it, as long as it touches it, it gets dispelled. Um,
yes, and since we're talking about 300-foot radius sphere, each dimension, so like you could literally, be on like the top of a building and affect, someone that's down underground, as well as flying above, multiple buildings out to the side. Like, the amount of things you could shut down with this are ridiculous.
and then it also has a wave of force that goes with it as well, which only is more immediate, like 30 feet of you. It can knock people down. You can only use it, once you use it, you can't use it again for 1d4 days. I always hate the random roll thing. I'd rather just be like, can't use it for a week, can't use it for a month.
Yeah, I mean, those things are interesting. I find the things that say, like, anything that's weirder than use it once a day and requires attunement, I find those things odd. And there's a couple of those in this bracket. So, like, the this helmet, it's like, okay, I'm gonna attune to it, I'm gonna use it, and then I can't use it again for 1d4 days. But for those 1d4 days, like, I guess I could break attunement and attune to something else until this is charged. It doesn't say that you need to stay attuned to it before it can work again. So like you can play that, that attunement yo-yo if you've
Uh,
got other items, for your slots.
so Chris Hosnick put the helm on a villain attacking the party. If you want to nuke all their consumables, I was thinking that as well. It's also like a very old school thing to do. Like back in the day,
Sure.
when you got hit by a fireball, you then had to make a saving throw for yourself, but then you had to make a saving throw for all of your gear and your items. And also, it didn't matter if it was magic or not.
Yes.
There was there
Uh,
was a table for it.
so I will say that there is a caveat at the beginning. It says the items in this collection were created for the film of D&D Honor Among Thieves. Each one can tilt the balance of power in a D&D game, so use these items with caution. So, like when you start talking about things that are legendary magic items, it should go without saying that legendary items are considered more powerful than standard. We have common, uncommon, rare, very rare, legendary, and then artifacts.
I,
So things that on that cusp of their legendary, that means they are, as the name comes out, they are awesomely powerful, and be careful using them.
yeah, and also usually they're unique too, right? Like generally there isn't a bunch of legendary items of the same type. Not always. There
They
are some,
right.
but
Yeah, legendary items have the aspect of, not usually, but they can be named items, because they're legendary. They have stories that are being told about them. Now it does say that, the helm was created, and it leads you to believe that, well, there could be others, but if they exist and they haven't been found. Um, so that tells you that, well, you could technically have more than one helm of the disjunction in a world, but you know they don't know of it yet.
what happens if you use two helms of disjunction at the same time?
I mean, that's a little bit rough.
They knock each other out.
I would say you could technically like knock down each other with the wave, but since they both stop any incoming, or they both magic, um, when they overlap, those areas would stop, but they would radiate to the other directions where they don't overlap.
I think it just opens a sphere of annihilation where they meet.
All right, if that's the way you want to do it, but I would just say that where they overlap, they cancel each other out because that's what it's meant to do. Um, but I would say, like, its effect would still continue on past.
So next up, we have the hither thither staff, which is like this item's
So
really fun, and I would be terrified to give this to my players, even more so than the helm of disjunction.
sure, like the helm is usable once every 1d4 days, and they're gonna use it, and they're gonna use it on either something stupid, or they're gonna use it on, like, the exact time that is gonna screw you up the most. When you like, oh, I guess they forgot about this thing, and someone's like,
Uh,
oh, yeah, I've been attuned to this thing for days. Oh, well, crud. But the hither thither staff is something that like comes with charges, and you can use it fairly frequently, and an intelligent, not character but player, as we see in the movie, can use it some ridiculous proportions. So I really dig this item, but I'm in the same boat that you are. People would be plotting and planning to figure out how best to muck up with such an item.
First and foremost, the portal on the beneath the enemy's feet, and then the one up in the air, 1,500 feet. You definitely see that happening, or them trying to drop boulders on people through it, or just pick your poison. So
I mean, I would think, like, all right, I want to, I'm gonna put one on the tree that I'm hiding behind, and one behind the bad guy, and I'm going to sneak attack from the wrong direction, so that I have advantage because they don't know where the arrow's coming from. They're not defended from behind. Does count as a surprise attack as well? Can I just keep doing this? Like,
I,
there's so many different ways to abuse this item.
yeah. So basically, what it does, it creates two portals that can be up to 1,500 feet apart. So basically, it's like the ultimate, movement utility device. But not only that, you can shut down one and leave the other open, but it's inactive, and then reactivate it again as long as you're within a mile, of it. So you can actually get even further, and like we see this happen in the movie as well. So like I won't go into it for people that haven't seen it, but it's definitely cool, and it's definitely something I could see players trying to figure out, you know, how to take advantage of the game and power game this, especially I think especially the game with Dr. Kurt and Mark and Ryan in it.
Uh-huh. I feel like there would be, with that group, there would be, conversations apart, away from the GM. They're like, all right, what things that can we do with this? There would be scheming, not plotting, but scheming to get the most use out of such an item. Comes with 4 charges, gains 1d4 charges at dawn. 1 charge gets you 2 portals. If you put a portal on a mobile object, it remains active as long as it's still within the middle of the other portal. Each doorway is up to 6 feet high and 4 feet wide, but it can be smaller if the object you're putting it on, or if you desire it to be smaller.
It'd be a great way to sink ships.
Oh yeah.
Put one inside the ship and the other outside in the water.
Yep. Oh, look at that. There's not a hole, but it's going down. It's gonna fill up real quick.
Yeah, that one's a lot of fun. So the next one is more of a plot device, and it really isn't meant for your meant for your players to get a hold of. And if they are using it, it's problematic.
Yeah, this is the culmination of the campaign, and like it's the kind of culmination of the movie. Like, this would be like, all right, my goal for the next aspect of it is, how do we destroy said item? So yeah.
So this one is a little more spoilerly than the others, but I don't think terribly so because of what we've seen in the trailers already.
Right.
But
so
basically, go ahead.
It's the Horn of Beckoning Death. Like the others, it's a wondrous item. It's legendary and requires attunement by a sorcerer, warlock, or wizard.
And with that, you can basically take an action to activate it. Doesn't activate until the following round. At which point, a cloud with a 30-foot radius comes out of it, and that radius just keeps expanding and moving out 30 feet. Anything with 9 hit points or fewer is just dead and comes back as a zombie. Although, oddly enough, it's a zombie under a very specific person's control, and that's the creator of the horn, not the wielder of the horn. So that could be problematic as well, unless you have a way to control a bunch of zombies.
Right. So reading that, I felt like I was a little shocked, um, because we had seen the horn used in the movie, and I was not expecting that last line to be, or second to last line, to be what it is. I fully expected to be like, oh, the zombies are under your control, but no, it's not that way.
Nah, because of the movie. In the movie, there is a couple instances where that makes sense.
Sure. Oh, I get it. I didn't read enough into the but to me, it's a little bit telling more about the Red Wizards of Thay, and the fact that perhaps they're able to legitimately work together, and that's surprising for evil to some extent, to really see that. Now, I haven't had a huge amount of interaction with, the Red Wizards of Thay, but I mean, I've seen them come up in novels, but anytime you're talking about evil and intelligent, I feel like they're gonna be at each other just as much as they are at odds with other people. And to see that this is somebody doing something, this is just essentially giving somebody else more power by using this, it's like, wow, that's a bit shocking. But then this is another one of those objects that, once you use the horn's property, it can't be used again for 1 year. So this is basically like, all right, once you've used it, break your attunement and attune to something else, because this one gets to be idle for a while.
Yeah. I mean, you in a large metropolitan area with a dense population, you could do a lot of damage.
Oh yeah.
So
And that
I would say this here's another kind of spoilery item, but we could probably talk about it without talking about why it's spoilery. It ends up
sure,
being a huge plot point for one of the main characters in
it's a catalyst.
in the movie, and that is the Red Wizard Blade. And actually, this one is kind of my favorite. It's just a dagger that does an extra 3d12 necrotic damage, and you can't if you die from this dagger, you can't be brought back short of basically true resurrection or a deity.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say uh true resurrection works. It's
The
a specific
specific,
or a deity. So like, you would have to call upon the powers of a god, or use the tablet of reawakening, which we'll get to in a moment. But like, I feel this one is kind of cool. uh, I wasn't certain what the item was as it gets mentioned in the movie, of like, oh, it's a red wizard blade. I thought, oh well, maybe these things are something that gets handed out, and red wizards are terrifying if all of them have something like this. But no, this is clearly a legendary item. So like, rumors exist of red wizards having these things, and the wounds that they leave are clearly obvious, i.e., by the 3d12 necrotic damage it does when it pierces your body. But it's terrifying, and it gives the story its momentum to get going, because we have this death that's caused by such a blade.
but it's also a weapon that does 4 to 40 points of damage each attack. That's
Yeah,
that's not nothing to sneeze at.
no. Could you imagine a fighter having one of these things with 4 attacks around?
Yes, or even
Or
the NPC assassin, dual wielding red wizard blades. That might come up in one of our games.
well, that would be utterly ridiculous. But I'm also looking at, well, what happens if you give this to a champion fighter who can get that higher crit range?
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh, and I mean, this is a 5e item, so the extra damage under the current rules would say that would get doubled. So instead of like 4 to 40, you're talking about 8 to 80.
4 times.
That's that's
And
that's a
then you
punch.
action surge.
Yes, 8 attacks with this kind of thing could be
Yeah.
utterly obnoxious.
Even without any crits, it would be obnoxious. But the
Yeah,
chances of a champion not critting with that many attacks at least once, and then if you go out of your way to do something I mean, we need reckless attack on this, right? so that they're all at advantage. So you're rolling, 16 times. You're gonna get a few crits in
yeah,
there, I imagine.
that's gonna mess some stuff up for sure. So the last item, I kind of already mentioned, is the tablet of reawakening. It's a wondrous item. It's legendary. And I'll read this one because it's short. Which is a Rashomon created this tiny stone tablet to counter the necromancy of the Red Wizards. Shocker. As an action, you can cast True Resurrection from the tablet. Once used in this way, the tablet turns to dust and is destroyed. So you get a freebie, And when you know how powerful True Resurrection is, this doesn't require any components beyond just this tablet, and voila, they're back.
No matter how long they've been dead and how little is left of them.
Yep.
Which so it's pretty cool. Like these are kind of cool items that you can add into your game. Kind of, they're almost like plot points, really. To a certain extent to get something done. Like the hither thither staff, I wouldn't mind introducing to the game if I knew it was going to go away relatively soon. Like they need it for a specific thing, have them use it for the specific thing, and then hey, Mister Spider, I'm gonna put you up there. And then and then not have to deal with it anymore. But to deal with that magic item in a regular campaign on a regular basis, just like the shenanigans that the players are going to get up to. But not only that, they're just going to keep escalating as they try and find more and more uses for it.
I would completely concur with that. Now, our table might be a different experience than yours. You might have people that are that play are far more straightforward and not feeling and I'm not talking antagonistic, but like creative, intelligent players sometimes like to do fun things, not to be a jerk or to feel like I got one over on a DM, but when you have the ability to be creative and think of new ways of doing things, it pushes everyone's boundaries and options, and creates incredibly memorable things. But sometimes those things are thought up without understanding the ramifications of how it's going to affect the GM or how it's going to affect some other players. So like, I'm not trying to criticize any of my fellow players because I love all the tables that I currently game with. So
I'm
it's
including
just
us in there. Like we'd be doing the same shenanigans.
sure, sure. Uh, so it's one of those things you, you sometimes want to do creative things, and when a DM gives you a thing, it's carte blanche to say, all right, well, are you going to with me? Do you have some way of using this that I didn't foresee? And I love giving out items. And there are times where I'm like, well, crap, this is good. This has gone and backfired. Oh well.
Yeah, definitely guilty of that.
But it's all good. It's all in fun, and I as the DM, I find ways to acknowledge and move forward, and you know learn from my mistakes. But at the same time, like, all right, if players are going to be creative, well, then maybe I have to be a little bit more creative. Maybe I have to, come up with something, or, in the case like Dave's talking about, plan these kind of items as, all right, this is a lend. You're going to use this for now. And, you know, once it gets turned back in, headache gone.
So Zargon wants to know what's your favorite legendary item that you gentlemen have created.
I, I don't have an answer to that. I would have to like spend time looking through the things that we've made in that kind of category. I've made a lot of fantastic stuff for the Mage Forge, but I could not tell you off the top of my head, which ones are legendary, which ones are not.
Well, forget the
If I
legendary
want,
part. Just like call out some specific ones you made that you really like.
Arcanal's Mind is a ring that was crafted for it, and I don't know if that's legendary or artifact. Um, but I love the item, and the artist Brendan did an amazing job. So much so that if I had more money than was polite, I would be taking that picture to an actual
Jeweler.
jeweler and be like, I need this. Can you make this? Because I love it that much.
I'm a big fan of the Ring of Hork. Also because the Ring of Hork really a lot of our magic items really have like very humble beginnings in this sense, or at least mine. Um, where I'll take an existing magic item and start tweaking a little bit
Hmm.
and make it into something new. So the Ring of Hork very much started out in that vein, and then it kind of
Hmm.
like it got expanded from there as we kind of like customize it to make to make it our own. Um, but then like also there's things like, and I think the biggest thing is like for us it's like we'll remember the items, but we might not necessarily remember their rarity off the top of our heads.
Hmm.
And also we also have made lots of items in other editions of the game that wouldn't even
Sure.
apply to, right? Like Alana Patois
I was gonna pull that one out as my next mention, uh, because like I can still envision the description that you gave me of like the two intertwined snakes, like coming up and forming the cross guard with the gem inset, not only in between the intertwined bodies but inside their teeth, or inside their mouths, gripping the end stone. But I mean, this was like literally like a +0, +3 versus undead, or +1 versus undead, whatever it was. But it was one of these things that like it was not a bonus at all unless it was against undead. But that campaign, that character, and that blade, I just absolutely adored. And like the tease of, oh, eventually you're gonna have to slay a vampire lord with this thing, and it's gonna reawaken and become something more. And we never got there, but I was like, oh man, I need to make this happen. I want to see what the better version of this blade is gonna be.
Yeah, I think it was +0 +4 because it was modeled off some other magic items, but they were plus
Mhm.
one, +4. Um, and
Sure.
it was made of silver. Like that was definitely fun. Um, there was crossbow cases that the gobblers each had one of, and basically they could produce 15 crossbow bolts a day. 5+1s, 5+2s, and 5+3s. So they got to
Mhm.
expend them. So stuff like that, like gives them like resource management is always fun. Um, Whisper, or no, not Whisper. Last Breath. Was it
Last
Last Breath?
breath.
Was a lot of fun because really it was just I believe it just started off as a +1 stiletto that you could turn into a +1 short sword, and then later in the campaign, I believe the weapon got fade touch somehow, or uh,
Hags.
what's that?
Hags.
Hags. I don't know if the hags did it or if it was because of like the Winter Lady um got involved somehow, and if she upgraded it and and gave it more power. So I like to like I also like just doing that in general instead of just like giving them new items and then they have to choose whether they're going to discard an old item for the new one. Or like I rather just upgrade the shit they already had. Like
Right.
Bloodfang's sword by the time we finished had so many enchantments on it and boons on it.
Yeah.
It's just like the downside is if he loses that one sword, then that's like most of his kit.
Yeah, it was a 5 die 6 great sword. Uh, and he was a fighter, so like he was gonna get a lot of attacks with it.
And he
Um,
was also a champion,
uh-huh.
so the crits would happen. And it was just a lot. It was just like one swing was a fireball.
So all right, we're actually well past the halfway point at this point in time. So I will throw out there, if this is the first time with us, or in case you've forgotten, this live chat, and as well as Nerdarchy, is proud sponsor of Easy Roller Dice. Whether it's your first set of dice or your 1 million set of dice, Easy Roller Dice for all your dice rolling needs. Drop down the description below. Check out that link. Check out that promo code for 20% off your first order. I will also say that today is April 2nd, not April Fool's Day, so there is no joke here. But it is our our time to do our monthly giveaway, as well as our announcement of those people selected for the fan game. So this month, sent to us by Wizards of the Coast, we've got the Shadow of the Dragon Queen Dragonlance bundle. So this has got the board game, the special edition book, which can only be gotten through this particular kind of box. The GM screen, the book, as well as the board game Warriors of Krynn. So all of this is a nice little package, and there's no last name submitted here, so this is going to Jaye. So I will be in contact with you this week, get an address, and get that shipped out your way. As we are on an even month, it is my time to run a game. We've got some travel and some things happening this month, so game and date is set TBD. But the list of those people selected is Anthony Arturo de la Cruz, Bryant Smith, Daniel Curtis, Ghostworks, Jacob Kitchens, Katrina Crew, Lazy Rune Boy,
I like
and
Kittens
Tiffany.
better.
Yeah, Jacob Kitten. Sorry, it's Jacob Kitchens. So I will be in contact with those as well. And I'll throw it out there to a vote for the people that are willing and able to play as to whether we do a 5e one shot or whether they want to do a Zoo Mafia one shot. Willing to do either, and it's up to those people. So we'll go from there.
Nice. So, I was thinking, kind of speaking of like you're talking about the one shots, and you mentioned Zoo Mafia, and we're talking about running some Zoo Mafia for the fans and trying to figure that out. I was thinking we could just maybe set up something with like start playing games or something and use that as our scheduling.
I was thinking, like, I know there's got to be a way to do it within Google Sheets.
Yeah, we could do something like that as well. But the only thing I was thinking though is if we send people over to start playing, we start running them over there. We could also even expose other people to Zoo Mafia, inflict it upon them, if you will.
That's true as well.
Which I got to run a game of Zoo Mafia last night. It's like my 90th time running Rum Run. So
90th. I think that might be a bit of a stretch.
a little bit, but so I got to run that for my son, his girlfriend, his friend, and his friend's girlfriend, as well as Steph jumped in on it as well. So when she's actually been through that adventure.
Yeah, she was actually telling me about it today, where she's like, "All right, I'm going to be the last one to choose character, and I'm going to be the last one to interact." And when you look at Powered by the Apocalypse games, things are set up, and it seems definitely more akin to like the characters having to make decisions and doing things. And if you're not making things, like, it forces a lot on the GM to be like, all right, well, what are you doing? And giving players the prompts to say, all right, something needs to happen. So I heard there was a little bit of a slow start.
That's what those hard moves are for. help get them moving in the right direction. Also, in the description, you can find a link to Zoo Mafia, the quick start rules, so you can check that out, download it, start playing as you will. Also, if you would like to play D&D in a castle with Ted or myself, I believe we have a couple slots left, so you're running out of time. It's going to be July 8th through 12th. So if it's something you're interested in, you're going to need to get on it soon, especially if you don't have a passport yet.
Yeah, what is it? 60 days, like the narrowest window of passports, and
you can get it in a single day if you really want it. But do not recommend. And also it's a lot more expensive that way.
Yeah, that was the part. Was kind of leaning towards Is it like, all right, are you going to sell a kidney to get your passport?
Yeah.
'Cause
Usually, I think
where to
usually
go?
you can turn it around like 4 to 6 weeks is a standard, and you can
So
bet your
it
bottom
might.
dollar will be introducing some new legendary magic items at D&D in the castle.
Oh yeah. So it might not be a legendary item, but it is a D&D item. I figured I would show that I am the dice collector extraordinaire here at Nerdarchy. So I heard of this Thursday night, right before the um the movie officially dropped, because I'm not great at social media and what have you, but AFD is doing the promotion for the Honor Among Thieves, and it's like, oh, you can go get your D20 popcorn bucket, and my friends are like, hey, I'm going tomorrow. I got to get a thing, and I'm like, you're talking about? So I immediately went and was like pulling up the information. I called my local movie theater, like as almost as soon as they opened the next day, and I was there within a few hours of like, all right, I must acquire mine. But it's a cool bucket that opens up. Um, so
I
I
think
figured I've
someone's.
got.
I think one of the dice makers said they could fit 9 pounds, like 9 pounds or 9.5 pounds of their dice in it.
Wow. So I keep my dice sorted in a particular way. Sets are all together, but I've got like loose D20s that are not part of a set in a container. So I feel like this needs to be the container for D20s.
I
So
am
this
chaotic
will join.
enough that I would throw all my dice right in there.
All of my dice would not come anywhere close to fitting in here.
I don't have nearly as many dice as you. And also, like, so,
Yeah,
but
well,
now when I get dice, I tend to just give them to my wife because I've got so many, and her collection is budding, and but she's also kind of a gremlin like you when it comes to stuff. So I'm like, here's another thing.
so I think that's going to be where my loose D20s go is gonna be to this thing, and this will become a new addition to my D20 or my dice shrine, if you will.
Just roll
Dice.
that.
It does not roll well because like the click doesn't latch
Yeah.
the way you'd. I've tried, so it's not gonna happen. And I'm
Has
not. I'm certainly not gonna glue the thing closed.
has there been popcorn in it?
There is not. When I bought my popcorn, he gave me like the regular, papery cardboard bucket of
Yeah.
popcorn, and then that was like still all sealed and wrapped. So there's not any, food mess that's gonna go to my dice. So I was ecstatic. I was wondering like how well this was gonna come clean. I don't worry about it.
Yeah, popcorn butter is a bit of a pain.
But
So
nope, still sealed. So actually, nothing has gone inside there yet beyond just a hand to reach in to see how much space there was.
yeah, I was kind of surprised. I'm gonna start trouble with another YouTuber. It's all right. We're gonna go hang out with them soon. But they actually posted on Twitter that they thought the D&D movie was a bad movie. And then there was some other things that some other people posted that I kind of agree with too. Is like, I have to go and double check and do some research on it, but I don't believe there is any credits to Gary Gygax, Dave Anderson, or Ed Greenwood. It's all to Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro for for the D&D brand and property, but no credit to any of the people that created the stuff or the realms.
So I can understand that point. I don't sit and read all of the credits to know whether or not there's any truth to that or not. Forgotten Realms was created by Ed Greenwood, so there should have been some kind of mention or what have. But maybe if they, like a special thank you would have been nice.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I think that's all people were looking for. A special thank you to the creators of the game, and and the creator of the Forgotten Realms. It would have been nice.
But I don't feel that it didn't detract from the movie. And like that's literally the first person I'm hearing having any kind of negative thoughts on the movie. I mean, we talked about it, on a excuse me, we talked about it on another video, and we did a very spoilerific breakdown of the movie and our thoughts. That hasn't been posted yet. It's going through editing and all of that jazz. Um, but I enjoyed it, and I'm actually looking forward to going and watching it again. Um, I almost was making plans Thursday night to go and see it today, this afternoon, before
Yeah.
I realized that I already had plans, so I couldn't do that. And then those plans would have been further supplanted by the fact that my son was sick today. So even if I had bought tickets, he would not be going.
It
And
wasn't yeah, it
you
wasn't
know,
in the cards. So we're
no,
doing like a YouTuber retreat with Professor Dungeon Master and Bob the Will Builder, Runehammer, and DM Scotty, and there's a bunch of other people going to be there too. So I'm going to have to grill him on. I wanted to see what he thinks a good movie is, um, because I mean, oh no, I thought it was a good I thought it was a solid movie, but to be like
yeah,
a bad movie, I'm like, and I had hardly heard anyone say that, like, on the internet. I've seen very few takes like that. Everyone could have been better, could have had this, could have had that. Sure, always. Is it a masterpiece of cinematography? No,
no,
but it was fun. It was just a fun, good
but
movie.
it was a fun, good movie. I'll see what kind of rewatch value it has when I go again, because I'll be taking the whole family for this one. Just have to figure out when. Maybe next weekend, maybe one night this week. Coming up, I got to check the schedule and see what happens. Um, but it's a scenario where I thought it was a good movie. Solid. 8.5 out of 10.
Did you see that they're Joe Manganiello's involved with a Dragonlance?
Yeah, they're looking to do a Dragonlance movie, um, you know, which I'm pretty sure is going to confuse a bunch of people who aren't familiar with the franchise, to be like, okay, well, how does this have to do with the Honor Among Thieves? Because it's a
Hey, like
completely
it doesn't.
it doesn't, right? So like, for the people who are D&D fans, like, okay, that's Forgotten Realms, this is Dragonlance, it's something different. Um, you know, I don't know. I haven't heard any specifics as to what they're doing beyond they're doing Dragonlance stuff. But I mean, if they're gonna do, was it no? I don't even remember. It's been so long since I read them. But like, if they're gonna do like the core group and their story, like
Chronicles.
Chronicles, yeah, there you go. If they're gonna do that, I thought there was like some kind of name that they all had. Um, like the typical adventuring companies, come up with. Uh, but like if they do that, I think that could be really cool. And to see some of those characters brought to life, will evoke a lot of strong emotions, either like, dude, you nailed it, or dude, you didn't. Um,
Chris in the chat
but
has
I would
mentioned
be
Ravenloft.
sure.
If we ever thought there'd be a Ravenloft movie, I think they really need to come up with a mechanism so that the Muggles can understand like the difference in the D&D movies, right? To clear up the confusion that you mentioned earlier.
So, I mean, if for the people that are looking to go, a lot of let's say, whether you call them Muggles or normies or what have you, like they're getting used to more and more things, because when you look at the MCU and the iterations of the multiverse, I feel like that's becoming more and more accepted. So if you make
Uh,
some kind of note of multiverse or planes of existence. You mentioned Forgotten Realms, and this is, Dragonlance, well, Kryn for here, and crap, what is the realms?
Faerun?
Faerun, thank you. Totally, totally drawing a blank, but having the names for these planes, could really help. And possibly just some caveat scene of like, oh, have you heard about what's going on in Faerun right now? Like, that could be
And they do mention, like, they mention Faerun, I'm pretty sure, in the movie and stuff. It's fun, but oddly enough too, there are tons of people that have read a bunch of the novels, but aren't D&D players or not gamers. Like I remember, like
sure.
my first time encountering it out in the wild, like decades ago. I think it was at, like the Chinese or one of the Chinese restaurants, and I was getting something, and the kid, one of their kids, was hanging out there and just reading one of the novels. I'm like, oh, yo, do you play? He's like, no, I just read the novels, and then I slap the book out of his hand because why are you? No, I kid. I would not do that. But to me that was really, yeah, that was really weird because like I feel like what TS one of the things that TSR was doing was like creating these like 300-page advertisements for essentially for D&D.
Mm-hmm.
And also like a lot of it wasn't, I would consider, like lowbrow fantasy. Um,
Sure.
compared to like they're definitely not great literate works, but they're fun, right? It's like mental junk food. I would like rip through a book every couple of days.
Yeah, I typically, when I was reading regularly, I was reading a novel every week or two, depending upon how much time I was devoting to the book. Yeah, I don't, with all the things that I do these days, it's a lot harder to find the time to read or make the time to read.
Yeah,
But when something comes out that I feel like I gotta do, I'll make the time and pour through it. But like I can recall in the last decade, like a Dresden File dropped, and I spent so much time reading that I wasn't eating, I wasn't drinking, and my brain was focused on text, that like I gave myself a migraine.
yeah.
Uh,
Now,
so like
now I
I'm
can't
like,
even
yeah,
get myself to sit down and read like 15 minutes straight. I don't know. I don't know what's happened. All my books now are audio. And actually, I just finally started. I just started Discworld.
you started Discworld.
Yeah.
Is that
Although,
that's Pratchett, right?
yeah, I'm not sure if I like the style though. I'm gonna
The
have to see if it grows on me or not.
you're talking about the reading style, like the voice, or you're talking about the style of the
No,
book? It's
the style of the book itself, the way it's written
okay.
is like the language. The language almost feels a little archaic and flowery.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Not not as bad.
Uh,
Not what's that?
I said it does make sense. I mean, I honestly, I was looking to acquire the Discworld books, years ago, when I was actively reading. So I have a whole bunch of things that were like put on my to-do list, and then um, little over 11 years ago, my living room and therefore my library was kind of like torn asunder, and a lot of my extraneous books wound up getting packed up and moved away, or not moved away, but like packed away, for some time later. So I don't know if that had anything to do with me not reading as much.
Yeah,
But thing that came next, my second child, certainly definitely put a strain on me not being able to have as much time to read.
yeah.
Um,
I was just gonna say a dragon attacked your house and took over your library.
well, that would be scary, but no, that was not it. I had my child. She turned 2 in February, and she had medical problems. She was on a feeding tube till she was almost 2 years old. So like we were getting up for nearly 2 years, 20 months, uh, to feed her overnight, via an NG tube. And that certainly was a struggle and a challenge. So,
Yeah, the good old days.
but
But it worked out in the
as
end.
oh, absolutely, she's healthy and fine now. She's more than 9 years off the tube, and we struggle with trying different foods and struggle to get her to eat enough of the healthy stuff. But she's healthy and growing. That's all that matters. Now, I recently, we had gotten the stuff from uh we got the stuff from Wizards in the the big mimic box, and the stuff that was mailed away for last month's giveaway. The person didn't want the Druid's Call, so there was like, okay, well, let's put that back on the shelf for next time. But I'm like, all right, well, since it's gonna get put back into circulation, I'm gonna read it. And I really liked Doric from the D&D movie. So I just started reading, and it was the first time in a long time that I felt compelled to actually keep going and reading. And I poured through it, pretty darn quick. I mean, it's a young adult novel, so like
So you just
I
gotta
should
read
get
books
through.
for you just gotta read books for kids now. Is that what you're saying?
I I mean, it's possible. But like I felt like there was more compulsion because I liked this was her backstory. So I don't know. I had a lot of fun, tearing through that. And whenever you read D&D stuff, like it always gives you more D&D ideas, and the backstory for this character is so rich and in depth. I was shocked, and I had never thought they would have something like that, and none of her backstory came out in the movie. So that was pretty cool to be surprised by a lot of
So I read I didn't read, but I listened to the other prequel book,
that.
and
Mhm.
that was really well done, and it had a lot of the stuff to add even more context to the movie, and I highly recommend that. I don't know if that one was a young reader or not. It did it.
Which one was that?
I think it's just called Honor Among Thieves, a
Prequel.
prequel. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
it didn't really seem like it, but that was definitely a good listen.
Cool.
Which is good because the last D&D book that I read, so it was at the very tail end of when Wizards was putting out novels. I think they might have even stopped and then tried restarting, and they put out a Gamma World novel, and they put out a couple Dark Sun novels. And the Gamma World novel was Sooner Dead by Mel Autumn, and Mel Autumn is a fantastic writer. So much so, I don't think he does really like fantasy or anything like that anymore. Like I think he writes for like TV shows and movies. But he did. The first time I read him was Threat from the Sea, which was a really great trilogy. And then once I saw his name pop up, I'm like, oh, I got to read this. Then I got to the Dark Sun novels, and they were just trash. I'm like, either they spent all their budget on Mel, or he did that as a passion project and just wanted to write it. Because
Mm.
like the difference in the writing and the quality was like night. I don't even
Well, I
think
mean,
I
it's
finished the Dark Sun books. They were so terrible.
it's tough, and like Dark Sun is a harder sell for any traditionalist, fantasy, because it's post-apocalyptic fantasy.
Yeah,
You're
but we're talking about like we were Dark Sun hardcore fans and read all the
Oh yeah,
novels,
uh-huh,
and and these were just garbage.
sure, and I understand that. I'm not trying to defend them in any way, shape, or form. I'm just trying to say, like, sometimes it's a lot harder to get someone, that's a really good author to write in such a setting, knowing that it is going to have a lower threshold of reader base, because not everybody is willing to pick up and read Dark Sun. Uh,
Yeah, maybe.
we happen. What was that?
I said I said maybe, but Gamma World was pretty obscure too.
Sure.
But It was fun. Anyone you get a chance to read Sooner Dead, check it out. It's a fun read. I wish there was more. So we are just past the we're just around the hour mark with us starting a little bit late. So we're probably right about there. So I don't think we're going to be back next week because that's the holiday. We're probably going to take
Yeah, so
Easter
next
off.
week is Easter, and we are traveling the week thereafter, so we have to
Oh
make a
yeah,
determination, as to whether or not we're going to be here in 2 weeks. So we might have, some hiatus, but don't worry, we're not, disappearing or what have you. It's just there's lots of stuff going on, and
yeah. You'll see us. We'll
we'll
be, we'll be here Tuesday nights playing Zoo Mafia with Ted running as our zookeeper. So you can check us out there. We've currently discontinued the Friday live chats for now, just with me having to go back and do a Muggle job. The scheduling is always like a nightmare because I forget about it until like that week, and then it's like between work and and everything else that we do, it becomes a bit of a struggle. So
indeed.
with that,
We have our regular videos. We have the Tuesday night game. So, there's definitely ways to stay in touch with us, and we'll be here on Sundays when we can.
for sure. So with that, until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.